Good afternoon. My name is Gisela Berrios, and I'm going to do my presentation for the COOP. And the name of my organization is Nanoso Army Community Hospital. I'm going to do the administrative section for this hospital. And next slide, please. Okay. Doing this COOP was not an easy task. I encountered lots of trouble as my organization is a military installation. Some of the information is either confidential, and I try to do other businesses, and the information is proprietary. So, but I started by consulting several departments. I started with doing interviews to the resource management, to the information management department, to operations, facilities, logistics. I talked to all the chiefs and the people in charge of the sections. And next slide, please. I also interview lower grade personnel, and something that really caught my attention is that there is a lack of information. The information is not delivered to the lower personnel or lower grade personnel. So some of the people don't even know what a COOP is, or they don't know what to do. I also interview the safety officer because besides wanting to do the interview to analyze the COOP and what the COOP was and how it worked for this particular project, I also wanted to do. Something jumped to my mind. I started thinking, okay, maybe there's information that I cannot disclose. So I went to talk to the safety officer about the COOP and what it was, and to request approval for the information in the COOP to be released. The safety officer told me that he wasn't really in charge, or he was not really in charge of the COOP. That the people in charge of the COOP was the operations people and the security people. So I decided to do an interview with them. I went and talked to them, and they were really nice. They explained to me about the importance of a COOP, and that it is really important to have set parameters and everything well established. It is important to pass the information along. And they talked to me about a story on Fort Greely, something that happened many years ago, where Fort Greely actually had an incident that where the post was burned. Well, they had to send people home, but this wasn't really part of a COOP, or it wasn't well established. But because they had to send it for such a long time, then nobody really knew what to do. And at the end, they ended up doing a well-established COOP. And part of the COOP was to actually have people work from home or teleworking. These now takes is used along in many installations, because some of the works that people of the jobs that people do actually can be performed from their houses, and this makes it easy, makes it faster to recover for some of these positions. Also, because he also explained to me that due to security reasons, it is really important that I would not disclose our COOP, or that I would not put information that pertains to it. Next slide, please. I also interview other businesses, like I explained before, that some of them were really small and they didn't even know what a COOP was, and they didn't have one, or a BCP, and some of them said that information was proprietary and they didn't want to disclose it. They didn't want to really help me out. So at some point I thought, okay, it is better to start with at least a business that I know what it does, that I can work around, and that I can work with people to get to a point where I can really use the information to create my own coup. So I went back to Mr. Wayland, and he was able to provide me with the Medcom regulation, and with the help of the FEMA COOP, the planning tool, the planning template for federal businesses that we got from this class, I was able to actually create my COOP. One thing that was also asked was not to disclose any names, and was to use, create my own hospital, because that information really does not pertain to this business. Once a year, now starting with the COOP, I'm sorry, once a year, the Nanoso Army Community Hospital actually does a COOP review. The review analyzes several points: the continuity plan, the essential functions of the hospital, the business process analysis, the continuity, facilities, and sustainability of functionality, the continuity facilities MOA or MOU, and the continuity communication systems, the availability to support the functions. And next slide, please. This information is shared via either SharePoint or is hand-delivered. Once the COOP is updated or changed, modified, it is distributed every year to the Alaska continuity personnel and need to know basis, additional personnel. It is distributed to the regional command, RMC-P, and to Medcom and to USARAC, because they need to have all this information, since they also support the organization, and Medcom is our major command. The COOP purpose. The COOP is necessary to coordinate and sustain life support for patients and staff. Life is identified as the hospital mission, essential function, and health services support, sanitation, transportation, food services, building repairs, religious support, sustained networks, system, and capabilities. Some of them, a lot of people don't consider them important, but they are, especially in a catastrophe or an emergency event. These functions are really important. This is captured, doesn't matter what the threat is or what the condition is. This serves for all of them. Of course, it varies accordingly, but that's what we use to minimize the impact and to familiarize personnel with the process. COOP assumptions. The assumptions are that we need to, due to the emergency, we need to relocate, that the essential functions should and will continue, and some of the lower priority functions will be postponed so that we can actually work with the main functions of the organization. If there is any issue with personnel due to whatever the reason is, casualties or unavailability for whatever reason, we need to go back to our headquarters or RHCP to request assistance. The COOP of objectives is ensure that our mission essential functions can be performed. They have to continue at all times. They can be paused for a short period of time, preferably 24 to 48 hours, to reduce the loss of life and property damage, to execute successful order of succession, mitigate disruptions to operations, or minimize them as much as we can, and to reinstitute mission essential functions between 24 to 48 hours. COOP phases. We have 4 phases in the COOP. The first phase is really the readiness and preparedness. There are some, the first thing to do is to distribute the COOP, and after review, and like I mentioned before, after review and corrections made, we have to analyze analyzing the COOP. They change the information, they update it and adjust it, and then the COOP is distributed. They conduct training and exercises that are kept in a log. There are also information sessions to provide the information to everybody, and there are and another thing they do is distribute driving kits. They put a list together of the items that are essential that they think that you can either have in your car or have with you in your office, in your drawers. Some could be, like a bottled water, some non-perishable meals, hygiene products, something that is not going to take a lot of space, but that in case of emergency and you have to stay in place in your office for a short period of time, you would be able to survive. Excuse me. The second phase would be activation. The activation is the process that follows an event that disrupts the normal operations. First of all, there is a decision matrix. There is a couple of questions that are being asked by the committee for the continuity plan implementation. Some of them is the facility affected? Are personnel or patients affected? Is it safe to return to work? Some of them, of course, if there's really no impact to the facility or no major impact to the personnel and patients, and it is safe to return to work, then you would return to work, and your COOP will stop right there. You're gonna go back to phase 1, and nothing will happen. Now, if there is some issues with the facility or major personnel or patient losses, and it is not safe to return to work, of course, there's more questions than this, but just to point a few, then you may not be able to come back to the facility, and your COOP are gonna start. Next, please. Phase 3 would be the continuity of operations. The operations will continue at your primary location until a message is sent by the hospital commander or his representatives, utilizing the EBS system for the continuity process. Advanced teams will inspect the continuity facility and will make sure that there is proper communications, proper systems, proper infrastructure for you for the continuity personnel to arrive. There is also transportation. Logistics is in charge of that. That they have to arrange transportation if there is any need besides the personal vehicles that everybody is going to attempt to use. But once the facility is inspected, they are going to give the okay. So then after that, the continuity personnel will arrive to the facility, which is going to be in the Dentec building 3048 for this exercise purpose, and the in-process procedure will be conducted. There's going to be a couple of guards at the main entrance that are going to have a log of the personnel that needs to be there, and they are going to do in-processing procedures. Everybody would have to report to them, because this will serve as a as a checklist to ensure that all personnel is accounted for. At that point, instructions will be given, and the personnel that arrives there are going to take their place according to either the plan that is being given now for them, or the instructions that they have already practiced and talked about during the meetings. They are going to continue the essential hospital functions as much as they can. And at this point too, they are going to notify either partners and family members, friends, close friends, relatives, next of kin, via telephone and email and text. At this time too, our partners are going to be informed. So hospitals like FMH or Tanana Chiefs are going to be informed of what is going on, so they can also assist us and know the status. Phase 4 is reconstitution of operations. Within 12 hours of the emergency relocation, the following departments will initiate, restore, and recover operations. Logistics, operations, facilities, safety, security, to name a few. They're gonna inspect the regional facility, and they're gonna try to make sure that we can actually relocate and come back to normal operations. And if it's safe to do so, we would come back to the original place. Some of the mission essential functions are the human resources functions, intelligence and security, operations, logistics, information management, engineering and facility, public affairs, safety, chaplain, equal opportunity, and executive officer. Besides those operations, of course, the main operation is patient care and patient records. Next slide, please. The continuity personnel I put a list in the COOP and it can be found there. Some of the essential records inventory can also be found in the COOP, and the order of succession the same way. Next slide, please. Now, I put an order of succession here. The first position would be, for example, the hospital commander. On federal COOPs, you don't put personnel because names of personnel, because the change fluctuates so much that you actually put positions. And that is, I found that information in the FEMA. I found when I talked to the safety officer, security officer, and once I read the regulation. So, for example, the position would be the hospital commander. So he's the order of succession for him would be the DCA, DCCS, DCN, and Command Sergeant Major. For the Patient Care Administration Office would be the Patent COIC, Records Manager, and Records Manager Assistant. For the Security Officer would be the NCOIC, the Security Manager, the Security Manager Assistant. For the Operations Officer, it's going to be the NCOIC, Operation Deputy, and Operations Manager. For the Logistics Officer, it's going to be the NCOIC, the Med Supply Chief, and the Medical Maintenance Chief. For the Informations and Communications Officer, is going to be the NCOIC, the Information Manager, and the systems administrator. For the budget officer would be the manpower manager, the budget officer, and the UBO manager. For the facilities officer is going to be the officer assistant, the shift leader 1, and then the shift leader 2. Next slide, please. For the delegation of authority, I also put some examples. The delegation of authority actually are gonna start once the COOP is initiated. But I put an example in the book just for you to see. And with that, that's all I have for you. It was, like I said, it was not an easy task. But it was really interesting to find out more information about the COOP, how it is created, and how different it is from regular business to federal business to small business, larger business, and depends on the type of organization. With that, thank you very much and good luck.